Welcome back to Lost Legacies. Matt couldn't make it today because he only got 4 hours of sleep. So instead, you got me, Matt's subconscious and instincts only.
And I'm Sam.
So first, I got to do a little addendum, I guess.
Sure. Yes, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, me either. Because last episode, I asked you a question. What was your favorite film score?
Oh, yeah.
And I had an answer. I just completely forgot about it at the time. I went with John Williams' Indiana Jones, Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Which is still up there. And I felt like Gladiator was much too, like, of course. That's everyone's favorite film score.
You'd be surprised. There are a lot of Hans Zimmer haters out there. But we don't associate with those people, so.
Yeah, they should be wiped free of the history books. So I will say Blade Runner, probably the more recent, what was the recent one?
2049.
Blade Runner 2049 was pretty solid. I loved it. But my number one all time, I'm 95% decided, is Beasts of the Southern Wild.
Oh, okay.
Dude, that's like that movie and Lord, like The Return of the King, are probably the two movies that will always make me cry. Oh God, it's just so good. So I just wanted to add that because it's one of those things, like, I didn't think of it until after we stopped recording. I was like, oh yeah, that's what I was supposed to say. But when you come up with 40 questions, I forget all my answers. So.
Yeah, that's a good one. See, I thought you were going to say Sunshine.
No, because I mean, the music is very important to that movie. I love that movie. I love the soundtrack. I love the main score, like that. The main. I can't explain it if you haven't seen the movie. If you've seen the movie, you know what part I'm talking about.
Yeah,
there's one kind of like theme that keeps recurring throughout the whole film, and then like the big, I guess climax. I guess maybe the start of the third act. I guess. Especially at the climax of like the hero's journey, you get the score. I think what is it called? Adagio in D minor. It's used in a lot of trailers now. Unfortunately, it is used in a few movies, but I think it's kind of hard to use it in movies now because when you watch it, everyone's like, "Oh, that's trailer music." I thought it was probably the best part of Wonder Woman 84. That's what it was called, right?
Yeah. 1984, yeah.
But yeah, I got online and everyone was saying, like, why'd they use the song from the trailers? I'm like, you uncultured swine. It's not trailer music. It's John Murphy and Underworld. So anyway, that's a really good one. But who knows? Maybe we'll change our mind on that as the show goes on.
Yeah, in next year when we do our anniversary one again, we'll just repeat the same questions, but they'll hopefully be different.
Yeah, we'll see. So what's up? What's new? What are you watching or reading? It doesn't only have to be watching.
Oh, okay.
Or listening to.
I'm listening to our podcast.
Oh, are you caught up?
Yeah. No, actually, no. I was listening to our latest episode today.
I won't tell you what happens.
Just before we started recording. Yeah, I don't know. Like, see, like I'm not like a huge podcast guy. Like, there's some that I'll listen to, but I jump back and forth between like podcasts and music, and and I jump around TV shows and movies right now too. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't even remember what I watched like in this last week. I did watch some of Troll Hunters on Netflix. That's really good. I'm not caught up yet, so no spoilers, please. I just finished the 5th episode of part 5. Felt like a season finale. Felt like it wrapped up, and then it didn't. So, yeah, I'm super excited to keep going with that. Still cranking away at Dimension 20 on Sleeping City season 2. It's great. I love it. Yeah, Brandon Lee Mulligan, friend of the show. If you want Matt and I on your on the next D20 thing, let us know. Yeah, let's go.
Wait, Is he a friend of our show? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, if he listened to it, I feel like he would be. You know,
You can't just say friend of the show because then people are gonna like, whoa, they know Brandon Lee Mulligan.
No, that's true. I know. Okay, just for legal purposes, Brandon Lee Mulligan is not
Friend to be of the show.
yes, friend to be of the show. That's my addendum for this episode. Yeah, I've embarrassed myself, so I'm gonna stop talking.
Yeah, the tough thing about podcasts is you have to have the time to listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I started listening to podcasts when I worked at a wood shop. So most of my day I had like giant noise canceling headphones on.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just shove my little earbuds underneath and I started listening to podcasts. That's how I got through so much of Critical Role so fast. But now, like, I don't know, especially our jobs now, it's really tough to like listen to stuff while we're working, especially because one, there's the retail aspect of it. And then two, even when we're not in up front, when we're in the back and stuff, you're still like, there needs to be communication. So it's kind of tough. Also, I've been trying to do audiobooks, but I don't know, man. It's the headphones are just kind of getting to me.
Mm.
And I'm 34. I'm trying to be better-ish, trying to be more healthy, and just headphones aren't part of that, man. Like I can feel what they're doing to my hearing. So like when we're doing our podcast and we're editing, I have some pretty good ones, pretty good headphones over the ear. That's the way to go. But yeah, the earbuds, I'm trying not to. And that's my whole thing with the AirPods too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, they're still going to kill your ears though. So
Yeah.
it's just you won't have any cables.
Which I think is dumb because even though the cables would get tangled up, at least I knew where they were. I could find them.
Yeah.
They're not just going to randomly pop out and fly into the street when I get out of an Uber. And it's like, well, that's it. Now I only have one AirPod. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. So
trying to make things so easy, so much easier for ourselves. And we're just making it harder, you know?
Yeah. I mean, to each their own, I guess. I know there's a lot of people, they're always going to buy whatever Apple puts out there. I'm like, nah, I dig Apple. I love their products. I think they're the best. When it comes to stuff like that, I believe like just pay the expensive amount of money and get it so you don't have to worry about putting up with crap. That's my take on it. But I'm not into the AirPods. I'm not into the iWatch. What's it called? Whatever.
The Apple Watch.
Apple Watch. There you go. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. But what I am into is podcasts. Speaking of which, there's a new show I just watched, Sam. In the span of our last episode to now, I have watched the first 6 episodes, the first 6 episodes of Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. Pure joy, Sam. So good. One, it's such a love letter to New York, like the New York lifestyle, Broadway, and true crime documentaries and podcasting. It's just, I love it. As of right now, no, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to jinx it. Like this is the most fun television I've watched in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it stars Steve Martin Short, and friend of the show, Selena Gomez.
We just established that's not how that works. Selena Gomez is not a friend of the show.
Yet.
Friend to be of the show.
Oh, man. So, yeah, it's an odd little trio, but I love it. I just love having Steve Martin and Martin Short back on screen. Mm-hmm. And not just a movie. You know, this is a series, and, you know, it's a long form storytelling. So it's good to have them back. Doing their comedic thing. I love it. And as funny as the show is, it's also pretty dark. It's pretty serious. Like they're dealing with murder, and dude, I'm having a blast. And the whole concept is essentially the three of them are living in this New York building, and they all bond over their love of like a true crime podcast. Well, lo and behold, a body shows up in the building.
Mm-hmm.
So they decide to investigate and they make a true crime podcast about it. And it's so good. I mean, it's straight up like Serial. You know, that's kind of the podcast that introduced me to like the true crime genre and stuff. And straight up, the music is very reminiscent of Serial, the style of storytelling, the narration.
Mm-hmm.
I won't give too much. I won't give any spoilers or anything, but there is a character who is essentially like a fictional version of the Serial host. I think Sarah Koenig. I think Koenig. Sorry, Sarah. I don't remember. It's been a long time since Serial did an episode. So anyway, I love it. I mean, I highly recommend you check it out. If you're a fan of podcasts, you'll love it. If you're a fan of true crime documentaries, you'll really, really love it. Because it's also very what's the word?
Relevant.
Very relevant of the times right now, especially with everything that happened with I don't remember her last name, Gabby, the girl, the YouTuber who, as of recording this, they just found her body and they're looking for the boyfriend now, because that whole case is kind of taking our country and our social media by storm. And because of social media, we have all these amateur sleuths trying to figure it out, and which is good and bad. And there's also the concept of like respect, like is this really helping the case? Is this a bad thing? Are we just turning Gabby's tragedy into another story for us to consume? That's all the stuff we're kind of going through right now in reality, and that's straight up what this television show was about. So all that just to say, I highly recommend it. And it's not done. It's only 6 episodes right now, so I think we still got like 4 more. So go check it out on Hulu. Ads or no ads. I don't know what else to say about that. Speaking of Hulu, that's also where we watch Lost. And that's my forced segue into, what episode is this? Season 2, episode 18. Dave, an old friend of Hurley's, arrives on the island and tries to persuade him to kill himself. That's it. That's what this episode was nuts, Sam.
Yep.
What do you think? What are your thoughts? It's been a while, but like, you usually give me a heads up, like how you felt about the episode. I have no idea how you feel about this episode, though.
What do you mean?
Because we work together. Usually you're like, oh, yeah, that was good. Or, ooh, yeah, that was bad. I have no idea how you feel about this.
Okay, well, usually I send you a text message after I watch an episode of Lost and I say, damn, that's a hell of an episode. And that's it.
Oh, I take it back. You did text me.
Usually I always say, yeah. What I did text you was, what the crap?
And then it says, oh, these writers are firing on all cylinders now.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
So I guess you like it.
Yeah. I really liked it. See, it was interesting because once I figured out what I thought the twist was, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So, yeah. Essentially, we see Hurley's time in the mental institution, and we see him interacting with a fellow patient, Dave. The doctors are very cagey about talking about Dave, all this stuff, yada, yada. Spoiler alert, Dave's not real. He's a figment of Hurley's imagination that is manifested by Hurley's self-hatred over an accident that he blames himself for, in which 2 people died. And Dave is the manifestation of him not wanting to take care of himself and wanting to cause himself further harm and further pain. I guess we should also maybe put like a trigger warning before this episode, because there were a lot of there was a lot of stuff in the episode that I was like, oh man,
I feel like if
this
it
is
was
kind of
made
rough.
today, there would definitely be a trigger warning before it, and there would probably be some kind of like uh message at the end for like suicide prevention or some kind of helpline at the end.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
because it was, yeah, yeah, it was rough. So, but yeah, but the twist that Dave isn't real comes like mid episode.
Yeah. Okay. So let me pause you there because
Yeah.
did you know it? Did that surprise you? The twist?
When when Hurley was having the conversation with his doctor in like the recreation room,
Yeah.
that's when I caught on. I was like, oh, okay.
When like
Yeah.
he straight up talks to Dave, but it's in a very um like kind of, I don't know what you want to call it,
It's
like a
kind of
showy.
like a playful condescension.
Yeah. Because like he knows Dave's not there. He knows he's talking
Yeah.
to an empty chair.
Yeah. So
Hurley
he's
and the
in,
audience don't.
exactly. So like he's
Mhm.
indulging in Hurley's fantasy, but
Right.
it's in a way that he's trying to make Hurley feel like, yeah, there
Yeah.
is somebody there. Yeah. Uh yeah. So that was crazy. But yeah, so that was the moment where I figured out like, oh, that's why Hurley's seeing him on the island because he doesn't exist. Because what I thought this was kind of like similar to Hurley's previous episode where he has the crazy dream and he sees like the guy in the chicken costume,
Right. Mhm.
and like, oh, like maybe this is like something like that where he's like manifesting somebody onto the
Yeah.
island, which is technically right. It's just that he's manifesting his own imaginary friend again.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so that was interesting. Like, honestly, Dave just felt like the Mr. McSplitlick of the Lost
Yeah.
universe. He just
Yeah.
felt like that trickster who is, like, oh, I'm just poking and prodding, doing
Mhm.
whatever. But when they had their like when they basically lead up and get into like the third act of the episode, that's when I was really digging the Dave character.
So after the twist.
Yeah, after the twist.
Me
And
too.
after,
I was not liking it at all. I was like,
yeah.
I don't like this character. But then once you find out he's not real, then it's like, oh, this is like, if this is a manifestation, then this is essentially like evil Hurley.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why he's always saying dude and man,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lovable quality in Hurley, but it's just downright annoying if the guy's a prick like Dave.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after the twist is where things really kind of took off.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because essentially Hurley's big breakthrough in the past was him realizing that Dave isn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows itself when Dave tries to break Hurley out. And Hurley essentially locks him out of the asylum. And that's where he realizes, like, okay, Dave isn't real.
I love that. It was like literally Hurley needed to like lock him out.
Yeah. I love that image of him like closing the window. I was like, yeah, that was really cool. And Dave only remanifests here on the island because Hurley admits to Libby that he has a problem, and it's because he's hoarding food.
Mm-hmm.
Which, let me take a brief pause talking about this very serious subject with going into where the hell did all this food come from that Hurley is storing? Not the stuff that just got dropped off on the island, because there's still a lot of food. And that was my whole thing from the beginning, that if we ration this crap out, we'll be fine. This was before we knew that there were monthly drops or whatever of food onto the island. How is, like, yeah, fine, one of the tubs is just mayonnaise, okay, whatever, we get rid of that. Another one is just ranch, let's get rid of that too, we don't need it. What the hell is the box that Hurley opens that's just like Cheerios, and then another one that's like goldfish?
Yeah.
And then
The crackers, not real fish.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But yeah, I'm just like, what, dude? That's a lot of food that Hurley is just taking out of the pantry and nobody's noticing that. Like, fine, I guess like people are only in the thing for the button or whatever, but still, like that was just a gripe that I had at the
Yeah.
beginning of the episode that I've also had with this whole with Hurley's storyline this season.
They
That like
didn't. They never really gave us details, so we're like, wait, what is happening?
yeah, so it's like, okay, like we already kind of figured that, like, okay, Hurley kind of has an eating problem because he's like
Yeah.
seen trying to like eat in secret. He's got candy bars and stuff, whatever. But yeah, the fact that he has like a whole hidden closet in the
Yeah.
jungle of all this food, like that was just weird for me.
Because I think here's the main part. One, everything we've seen of it so far before this episode, it was kind of played as like a laugh, like, oh, Sawyer caught you. Ooh, son caught
Son
you.
caught you,
But
yeah.
but I think the main thing too is not only that, but it doesn't make any sense. Like,
Yeah,
why does Hurley need to hoard it? No one's ever in the hatch.
exactly.
He could just be slowly eating out the hatch, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's really only Jack and Locke down there. And if they don't notice all this food straight up missing, they're not going to notice him just eating out of the pantry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's definitely kind of like, I guess it's a plot hole, or
It's not a plot hole.
it's
It's
just
just
poor writing.
it's just bad
like,
writing. Yeah.
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 That
So
being
like,
said, though, that was just a setup that I guess they tried to tease throughout the season, which just didn't make sense. But as far as his story, I'm like, okay, I get it. And I get that he has the problem. I just wish
yeah.
they would have like teased that this was a problem earlier,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
instead of us just being like, either one, what's Hurley doing? Or two, oh, Hurley's out eating food again. No, like give us something to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Because we've never felt concern for Hurley in this story, this specific storyline. We're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And then we get to this episode and we're like, oh, it's really bad. Like he's got a
Mm-hmm.
bad problem. And so before we go on, let's talk about the opening of this episode, because it's straight up. I was surprised how fast the story moved, because it addressed that.
Mm-hmm.
He's opening up to Libby and he's confessing about his problem. And it was a great scene, and it was great acting from both actors. I'm like, man, this is like climax stuff, in this episode. And she convinces him, like, well, get rid of the food. And I wrote a note. I'm like, damn it, what a waste of food.
Exactly.
But I would have been like, Jack, take my keys or something, like he's a doctor.
Yeah.
I think Jack, as hard-headed and stubborn and stupid as Jack is, I think he would have understood Hurley's problem.
Yeah.
But I think Hurley has a problem admitting it to himself and to others as well.
Exactly.
So it was a great scene. It was a beautiful scene where he's just wasting all this food. And then what happens? Everyone starts running. It's like, oh, they found something in the jungle. And they found the drop stash, the food that someone from somewhere delivered to the island.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just find it. Like, they're straight up starting to fight over it.
Yeah.
And that was nice, because that goes back to Hurley's fears in the last episode, or his last episode.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, oh, everything's going to change now. That was his whole thing. That's why he decided to divvy out the food evenly,
Mm-hmm.
because he knew things were going to get ugly. It's like, yep. So he saw it. And that's literally before the opening credits, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's when he sees Dave for the first time and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like the backbone. That's the spine that the rest of the story is built on.
Yeah.
So I thought, I mean, that was such a lost moment.
Mm-hmm.
When he literally goes through this, he has this epiphany, and he goes through this life-changing moment, and 2 seconds later, nope. Libby even brings it up later as
Mm-hmm.
well. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, she says, I'm proud of you for not freaking out about it. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's to me, that's like some kind of Pandora's box or temptation,
Mhm.
of that's like devil stuff right there.
Yeah.
As soon as you're, or especially because the show, there's so many like theories and things, like we don't know what is going on this island. We don't know if it's like magic or supernatural or science fiction. Like we don't know what the hell's happening. So when that happened, I was like, ooh man, that's some like Satan deal making, bargaining type stuff right there. As soon
Yeah.
as you get better,
Mhm.
he puts the food right in front of you again.
Yes, it's the monkey's paw, you know?
What the hell's the
Like
monkey's paw?
I well like I don't know like the exact like terminology, but like everybody uses the phrase monkey's paw as the thing of like you're gonna get exactly what you want, but there is a catch. And the
Oh
catch is usually not what you intended, not what you wanted.
yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get this cool, awesome thing, and then the unforeseen consequence comes
Mm-hmm.
in. So yeah, Hurley does like go through this life-changing transformation, and then 2 seconds later is faced with the exact fear that he had. It's like, hey, but that shouldn't be your problem now, right? Like you should
Right.
be fine. You're cool with it. You're cool with letting go of the food.
And it's not the first time we've seen this. Like this
Exactly.
is mirroring Charlie's story so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was doing so well, and then boom, he finds a bunch of heroin on the island. And
Mm-hmm.
that's led to this new chapter in Charlie's story that nobody likes. And I don't think is written very well either.
mm-hmm.
So um yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So that was nuts. And then just change the subject keep moving on. Sawyer, Hurley straight up beats up Sawyer, man.
Oh,
I was like,
dude,
oh
yeah.
man, like, yeah.
I did want to take a moment because uh Sawyer does kind of call out Libby uh like early on when she's like we don't need any leaders, we don't need any of that. We can all just everybody can just take whatever they needs.
Uh-huh.
And then Sawyer's just like, yeah, and then we can all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like that is kind of like it's the same thing where it's like you gotta let go of the food, like so let it go. It's just like, yeah, that is kind of like it is kind of like a new agey thing, I guess. And it,
Yeah.
like I didn't agree with it because it's like everybody needs the food. We
Yeah.
gotta eat,
But
but
we have seen that from Libby before. She was the one who helped like Claire meditate and
yeah,
find like her super nightmare, which I guess helped.
yeah. I
Uh
mean, yeah, it did,
in the long run it
yeah,
did.
yeah. But yeah, I loved Hurley in this episode. Jorge Garcia really brought it. And yeah, just in his episodes where he's talking with his doctor, and then in that final confrontation with Dave,
Mhm.
where Dave is telling him, like, you never left Santa Rosa. You never left the
Mhm.
institution. You're still there.
Yeah.
And everybody wants you to like everybody here, this whole place is a manifestation of your mind. It wants to trap you here, and I want to set you free. And the only way to be set free is by jumping off this freaking cliff into the ocean.
Yeah. I
And
thought it
I'm
was very
like,
clever writing too, because it is very meta.
mm-hmm,
It's like, of course, the cute blonde girl from the opposite side of the island makes her way to you, and she's has a crush on you.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, how come only pretty people survive this plane crash? It's because it's all in Hurley's head.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought that was pretty clever.
yeah. It was pretty clever. It was yeah. That's some Inception shit too, where it's like
Yeah.
the only way to escape is to fall.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you brave enough to take that leap? And it's like that's crazy, but it is a thing where it's like when there is a person who does feel that level of like self-loathing and has that sort of hatred for themselves inside, that like that is one of the ways that they start to like their brain literally starts to change, and it's like, yeah, this is the only way that makes sense. This is
Mhm.
like the doing this thing is the only thing that makes sense. And it's like, that's wild.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that happens to so many people. And yeah, just the fact that like Libby showed up and essentially was like nosy through the whole thing. It's like, yeah, no,
Mhm.
like you weren't okay, so I followed you, and it's like we have to have this conversation. And Hurley is trying to explain that like none of this is real, it's all a manifestation. And then she gets to tell him, in like in a very polite way, but she still gets to tell him that like, that's kind of selfish of you to say that all of this is fake,
Mhm.
that all of this isn't happening to everybody else, that it's just you,
Mhm.
and it's like just the fact that Libby is there and able to talk Hurley down and to convince Hurley that like this is real, and the fact that it's real is okay, you know and you being here is okay. You being you is okay. And yeah, and then they kiss and then they walk off together, and it's like that's like that doesn't immediately solve every problem, but it's the first step, and they are taking
Mhm.
the first steps now to so that Hurley can, like mend, to be on the mend.
Right. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, man. This whole, I mean, like the scene with Dave was great, but I really loved the scene between her right after between Hurley and Libby.
Yeah.
That's where I was
Yeah.
like, dude, this is yeah, I'm feeling it. Bruce Davison is the shrink.
Yeah.
I was like, what was his name in X-Men?
Senator Kelly.
Senator Kelly, you son of a
Mm-hmm.
bitch.
Mm-hmm. Which just furthers my X-Men theory even more.
That's true. And what year was X-Men?
2000.
Oh, so just a few years before this.
Mm-hmm. So I had 2000 or 1999, but yeah, it was like right on the cusp of the new millennium.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So before we go into the B plot, there was some interesting things that popped up. Little info because I like how basically Hurley's gonna go live out in the caves by himself as a naked wild man, but he says no one's living in the caves anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. So everyone's
Like,
back to the beach now.
yeah, I guess that makes sense because because of the whole Russo thing,
Yeah, like
you know.
yeah,
So I feel like everybody's sort of like it's too much work. And now that they have the hatch and everybody's on a rotation, like I
yeah,
think it's just easier to have everybody in a centralized location like the beach. So yeah, but
yeah.
that was nice. That was nice to get a confirmation of that.
So before we talk about the final scene in this episode, let's talk about the B plot,
Mm-hmm.
which is Henry. All about Henry
It's all about it.
again. But
Mm-hmm.
man, so we left off last time with the reveal. He's not Henry Gale.
Mm-hmm.
He lied about that.
Mm-hmm.
In this episode, we straight up see him tied up. Saeed's he's gonna shoot it. He shoots him if it weren't for Ana Lucia. Like he
Mm-hmm.
was gonna kill him. I'm like, which makes sense because that's where his head's at. And they've
Yeah.
been hinting at it. They've been teasing that. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, oh man, that's crazy. I
Mm-hmm.
wish that had kind of been a bigger moment for Saeed
Mm-hmm.
because we see it more from Henry's perspective and how scary that was. But like that's Saeed was going to kill again,
Mm-hmm.
and I wish we could have seen more of it from his perspective.
Mm-hmm.
To realize I pulled that trigger, and I mean he doesn't regret it. He still wishes he had done it, but I wish we would have got that more from Saeed's side because he's
Mm-hmm.
the character we've been following so far. Not Henry. And it's like I feel like that's crossing a line for Saeed that you can't go back on, especially considering his past.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really see that in this episode. It just kind of happens, and then we see Henry's reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah. So what did you think about all that? And I also say I think this is the first time we get to see Michael Emerson like really shine.
Mm-hmm.
because his performance, and it's like 4 or 5 episodes already that we've had Henry.
Mm-hmm.
He's always very coy, very mysterious, but almost like on the nose, almost like a little bit cheesy, a little bit of Bond villain. It's just like just the way he's so obvious at the way he's like pitting people together, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a good thing I'm not one of them, huh? Things like that. But after this episode, like, or during this episode, it's like all of that is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say he's speaking only the truth, but this is a different man they're talking to now.
Yeah.
And you see like something a little bit more sinister. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh. I'm
Yeah.
like,
When
okay.
he's talking to Locke towards
Mhm.
the end, and he's saying this like, God can't see this place any
God
more than
can't
the
see
world
this
can.
island. Oh my
And I was
dude, that
like,
line gave me chills.
yeah, dude. I was like, damn, that's a line. That's insane.
That line
Um,
gave me chills.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm really digging it. And I was really wondering when we were gonna get to this because I know Michael Emerson becomes pretty integral to the show.
Yeah.
Uh, to an extent. So like I was very excited to start seeing that now because his first introduction, I'm just like, I don't believe a word out of this dude's mouth. Like, I'm sorry, I know your
Yeah.
story's fake. So yeah, to get more confirmation from that, and then it's really cool. I'm excited to see more.
Mhm.
Um,
And he tells Locke he didn't push the button. Nothing
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
So we're not in a place yet where like I believe what he's saying because he still feels like just as manipulative,
mm-hmm,
but it's I guess like it's no longer of like if he's good or not, good or
mm-hmm,
bad. It's like, no, we know he's not good. We don't know how bad he is. We don't know what his motivations are. We
yeah,
know we're dealing with someone sinister. Oh, dude, what a performance.
yeah. I think the only
Yeah.
thing that lends credence to him telling the truth is the fact that he mentioned the hieroglyphs because we saw the
Oh,
hieroglyphs.
and that's kind of the thing though. Like now knowing kind of who a little bit more of who he is, knowing that we can trust him, going back to seeing everything he says, he never tells lies. He only tells like half truths
Mm-hmm.
or half lies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like his lies are rooted in the truth. The way he's like, yeah, Henry Gale did have a balloon because he
Mm-hmm.
even tries to get away with it. Like in this episode,
Mm-hmm.
he says we found him dead and blah blah blah, but no, Saeed found a note Henry Gale had written after he had already crashed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like all his little lies are somehow rooted in truth.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was great how he mentioned the hieroglyphics, because yeah, that's true. Those are there. Locke
Mm-hmm.
knows it. So he's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, he must be telling the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Dude,
Wild.
great writing, great acting.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see more of this guy. I think that's pretty much it. We got a little cameo from Leonard this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But why don't we talk about that very last scene?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna set this up.
Okay, yeah, set it up.
First time I watched this, I was instantly taken back to like the Buffy episode where they make her believe it's all a story in her head.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
She's like in a mental institute.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up, I don't remember the episode. She gets out of it. She figures out, she fights her way out. But the last shot of the episode is in the cell. And you see Buffy still there, right? Like huddled up.
I think so.
I think that's the last shot. So it's like, it kind of gives that little open ended to this, like, oh, it could all be in her head
Mm-hmm.
or not. Who knows? Anyway, they could have easily went that route with this show, especially considering it's this show.
Yeah.
But they did something else, Sam. What did they do?
They cut back to the Santa Rosa recreation room. We see Hurley talking or playing checker or playing Connect Four with Leonard, and the doctor leaves, and then the camera slowly like pulls out and starts to turn, and we see somebody's just kind of like not staring at them, but just kind of staring in that direction, kind of just like, absentmindedly.
Mm-hmm.
And the camera turns, and we see Libby
Mm-hmm.
completely out of it, disheveled, just absent-mindedly there. And then we see an off-screen nurse comes up and says, "Here are your pills, Libby." And she kind of just like looks up and nods and then takes her pills, and then her face just sort of like drops. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. So let's just jump into it, Sam. Predictions. What the hell?
Firstly, I don't even know what to think about that.
Yeah.
That was just like
That came out of nowhere, but it was
Yeah.
like it's brilliantly set up because this whole episode was getting Hurley and Libby closer on
Mhm.
Island.
And I think it's interesting because as much as we are on about like the island doing like the monkey's paw thing,
Mm-hmm.
Lost is also a show, regardless of whatever Jack wants to think, Lost is a show about fate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a show about bringing people together in a way that it's like, you can't really deny that this is fated.
Yeah.
The fact that it took a plane crash and having the most traumatic experience of her life for Claire to realize she wanted to keep a baby she was going to give up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that a plane crash and mountains and mountains of years of things going on between these two lovers finally getting to reconcile and being maybe more in love with each other now than they ever were before, Sun and Jin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's all like just even completely like ignoring the freaking miracle that is John Locke waking up on the beach with the full use of his legs again, after who knows how long he hasn't been able to. Just that fact. The island keeps doing this thing where it's bringing out it's bringing out some sort of destiny, whatever that destiny may be. I have no idea what it is, but the fact that before Hurley and Libby, they met at the gate because he ran over her foot, and that's the thing that Hurley remembers. And Libby's like, I would remember somebody who ran over my foot. Like, that's insane. That's wild. It's like, okay, yeah, like that's kind of, that's a funny little coincidence. Like, I completely forgot about that. The fact that they've been in the same room, the same institution together, maybe not going through the same thing, but just the fact that they have also this shared experience of being at that institution is like, what's happening? This just threw everything. This just threw all caution to the wind. And it's like, I don't know what that means. There's some sort of destiny that Hurley and Libby are tied to. I don't know if they're even meant to be together. I don't think that's what this is. I just think that whatever happens to the two of them being here at the same time is a part of it. So I have no freaking clue, but I'm hella excited to find out.
Yeah. Oh man. And it also makes us question everything Libby has said now so far, being the new age girl,
But in a way, it kind of makes sense, because if she's out, if she's recovered, maybe these are the techniques that she kept, that she learned from her experience.
Possible.
Yeah.
Or she's always been crazy until she got to the island.
Oh god.
Oh, that would be nuts, right? I just made that up right now. I don't actually think that's what happens, but
Uh-huh.
I think that would be so cool. Oh man. Um yeah. Yeah, this episode, it was good. I feel like it's kind of like my the feelings we had towards the recent Claire one. Like it's not a great episode. It doesn't really move too much of the lost like plot forward, but for like a quote unquote good episode, it was pretty solid. You know,
Mhm.
our anything we complain about it was very small. I think it was really well done. The writing, not it's not even the twist itself, but the way they tell the story, which I think the twist, like you said, the twist is halfway through the episode. So it really kind of throws everything for a loop the second half, which I think is really good. Oh, this is very interesting because this is taking me back to the Bad Twin novel. We've talked about this in the past.
Oh yeah.
The novel set in the Lost Universe because it's a noir and they mention mysteries. Everyone says, you know, they say, what's the greatest mystery ever written? And everyone says it's what's it called? Turn of the Screw?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of like horror though? Because it doesn't have to do with ghosts.
I think so.
I think it does. But anyway, everyone
Mhm.
says that's like unanimously one of the greatest mysteries ever written.
Mhm.
But the lead character in the book, Bad Twins, says he disagrees. The best mystery ever written is called Fermat's Room. I think this was called, or Fermat's, because I know Fermat's problem is an actual like math equation thing. I think
Mhm.
it's called Fermat's Room, but I also think there's a movie called that. So I don't know.
Oh.
Because it's one of those things. I looked up the book a long time ago and it exists. It's just really hard to find.
Hmm.
So I don't know the exact title of it. I think it's Fermat's Room. But he says the reason why it's the best mystery novel is because halfway through the book, you quote unquote discover the killer. So the second half of the book, the reader has to wonder, like, well, wait, there's still a whole book. And that's when it's kind of the detective or whoever is the main character in the book starts untangling his own case and realizes he had it wrong. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of a big grander version of what they did here. Like the big twist was halfway through, and I'm like, oh, okay. So what does that mean? And then that's it, the second half of the episode where we really start getting into Hurley's headspace,
Mhm.
which we kind of glossed over. We didn't really talk about it, but the big reveal is that and this is the same scene that the twist was. It's what caused Hurley and the doctor to reveal that Dave wasn't real. But something happened in the past having to deal with like a dock. 23 people, like
A
there's a
deck.
dock, a deck collapse.
Mhm.
23 people got injured,
Mhm. Two people died.
2 people died, and Hurley blames himself. And even the doctor said he's like, that deck was built for 8 people. There's 23 on there. But Hurley still feels like he was there, someone of
Mhm.
his size, you know, he killed
Mhm.
those people and he feels just so guilty over it. And that's when like the doctor kind of reveals that Hurley's eating problem is his way of punishing himself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the moment where the audience doesn't figure it out. The doctor says, I'm like, we're like, oh,
Mhm.
all of this makes sense. I wish there had been some tease of that earlier in the season.
Mhm.
You know, we never got any sense like this problem, these situations that keep throwing Hurley in. Nothing ever hinted that it was this serious.
Mhm.
I wish there had been. So that was kind of the revelation moment that Hurley causes Hurley to say, you know, like, I think you're a quack. You don't want what's best for me and all this stuff. Dave cares for me. And then the doctor reveals that Dave's not real.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a great scene. And I think that really, it really goes into the Hurley character that we've seen, you know, because he's always had that kind of guilt of like bad things happen to people around me.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, you know, up to this point, we're always like, oh, it has to do with the numbers and the lottery and all that stuff. And now it's like, no, it's even before that. So it was a really good Hurley episode.
Yeah.
It was a really good episode, period. But
yeah.
I love the as far as flashbacks go, it was solid. I'm glad we got this and found out this chapter of Hurley. Which this is the furthest back we've seen Hurley's story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man. I think it's safe to say MVP is Jorge Garcia.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, without a question. Just the pain that he has, you know, when the doctor says is like it doesn't, like, it wouldn't have mattered whether or not you went on that deck.
Yeah.
And he just like he looks off and he nods, like he acknowledges that, but then he looks at him, tears in his eyes. He says, "But I did, I did get on that deck," you know. And it's like that's enough. It's just like it doesn't matter to him. It's just like it's the fact that he still went out there.
Yeah,
that's why he's carrying that guilt with him, and that like it's heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking performance on top of having to see, you know, him like eat, you know. I don't usually have a problem watching people eat food on in shows and movies. I know a lot of people don't like it, which is also why like they also don't like filming it, which is also why like there's not a lot of eating in movies and TV shows and whatnot. But
here's a filmmaker tip. Matt's filmmaking tips. Unless you're from another country, unless you're making like a foreign film, there's only, well, I mean, look, just period. There's only two reasons why you film people eating. One, it's because you're trying to sell like whatever this culture is. You know, oh, this is my family. This is us eating, blah, blah, blah. Or you're trying to discuss someone. Those are the only two. You never actually see someone eating and having a conversation on screen because people tend to get a little grossed out when they're watching people eat. That's really an American thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of countries, they don't really have that problem. That's why I mentioned the culture stuff. You're like, oh, this is my Greek family. Yeah, you're going to see them eating because for, you know, whatever reason, we associate food with that culture or that family. So it's like, okay, same thing with Mexican food or anything. It's like, yeah, it's a celebration of culture. Or you want to discuss someone. Those are really it too. And I think it'll be interesting too going forward now that we've discussed this and our legion of followers have heard. Go out, watch movies, and look at how they film food scenes. I think you'll be surprised how little actual eating you see. And it's very surprising because you're like, oh, we didn't actually see anyone eat. It's just kind of in our brain. Like we put two and two together. Even Downton Abbey, like half that show takes place at the dinner table. The only time you actually see it eating is like when they're mentioning it, like, oh, this is good. And they taste it, something like that, you know? I think that's just one of those genius kind of like mind trickery type things that they've figured out in cinema.
Yeah.
So love it.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Speaking of food, the very first podcast Sam and I did was a single episode of something called Let's Eat Matt. This was a podcast I wanted to do, and I still might do it because I still have the tags and the whatever, the podcast out there somewhere. But the whole idea was I would sit down and have a meal with someone and record it just as talking. Now it's kind of weird because you don't want to hear people chewing and munching. Especially as now that I'm editing podcasts, I'm like, oh my God, I would hate that so much. But yeah, it's called Let's Eat Matt. No comma, but there is an exclamation point. And the only episode we did was about food on film.
Mm-hmm.
And we discussed this and we talk about like our top 10 uses of food on film. And dude, like I think we almost talked for like 2 hours.
I know.
That episode is way too long.
Even though we kept being like, okay, we gotta wrap this up. Like
we gotta wrap it up.
Like less than 5 minutes. Let's
later.
go. And then 30 minutes, we're still like, okay, now question 7, like no, number 7 is
yeah.
That was a lot. But yeah, that was fun. I think about that episode a lot. Yeah,
but it was a good challenge too, because we gave ourselves time because we had to go back and think about food on film and how it's used.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot. Like I already had my list. I figured out my list, but around the time I did my research and stuff, seeing how different people film it, I was like, wow, this is something. I think it would be a cool challenge to do a whole, like a feature film at a dinner table. I would love that. I would love to do that challenge. Yeah. So, I guess, do we have any other MVPs?
No, I don't think so. No, not for me.
I mean, Cynthia Wathos. It's hard to say this name. I'm sorry, Cynthia. I'll say that. Cynthia Watros. As Libby, she was great. Loved it. I'm loving that we get to see more and more of her. Can't wait to see more. And I really like Libby and Hurley together, you know?
Yeah.
And in Michael Emerson, I
don't want to give it to him yet.
I don't want to
feel like, yeah.
See, there's no other character or actor in the show where I'm like, no, wait, it gets good. I'll give it to them later. But also because like he had a very small role in this episode. That's why I'm not going to give it to him.
Right.
But we definitely saw a new side of this character. And I think it's the first time we really got to see Michael Emerson act. So not that he wasn't acting before, but like he was doing something very specific with that character. Very, very fake. And I think that was intended. And now it's just like, nope. Now you get acting. So okay, all right. Jorge Garcia today. Just him alone. The guy who played Dave, good job. I hated you. You did your job and you did it well, man.
Yep.
You know, the way he called him like amigo and all this other stuff. You know, say cheese, queso.
Yeah.
He was annoying. Good job. We're rounding out, man. We're coming towards the season end.
I know.
Because next time we're talking about season 2, episode 19, SOS. It's about damn time when Jack finally decides what to do with Henry. That's the only thing I'm like, you know what? It's about that's the description.
Yeah.
You know? Doesn't give anything away, but it says, okay, it sums it up. What's gonna happen?
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Yeah. So all right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We hope you loved the episode. Hope to keep you around. Let us know. What did you think of Dave? Not the guy. Nobody likes Dave the guy. What did you think about the episode, Dave? Let us know. And a hashtag Lost Legacies. And also let us know what's your favorite use of food on film. As always, you can find me on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Real, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
After this, we'll go eat me some crispy tacos. All right, guys. Until next time. Queso.
Yes. Oh, dang it.
Were you going to say that?
No, I was going to say get lost.
Oh, okay. All right.